You're listening to the third series of Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we all climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. Default. Start again or return to the start. The comfort found in returning to the ground. That place so familiar, warm and so similar. To change again, to breathe new life, to forget life's past troubles and strife. Looking for unfamiliar warmth of a different sun to make the bad come undone. And when the doubters doubt and try to bring about a different change in me, I think of me and them and what I want to be. There's no fault in your own default, but my own default is just no longer right for me.
What lies behind these rhymes, Andrew?
So I had this idea that everybody has a fallback, a default personality position after relationships finish or comforting things. And it's about trying not to fall back into that place and actually try and move on and move forward.
How did you do that? How did you move on?
Well, that's not easy to do.
No, change is very difficult.
So it sounds crazy, but this really a default is like a default setting on an appliance. You know, it works for so many years. You add all your settings, then you press a button, and everything's refactor factory settings. So this is about a factory setting basically that I have, and I've seen this in other people as well, and it's really not easy to not default back to this position. And in fact, in subsequent years, I have actually found myself defaulting. So even though you try not to, because it's well, I actually write it in the poem. It's that familiarity. It's the warmth that a safe default position gives you, versus trying something new or a new direction.
It's very difficult to change, or impossible to change other people. So the only change you can bring about is the change in yourself. How did you find going through that process?
Changing myself?
Yes.
Well, I went through counselling, which opened up a lot of questions that I had to find answers for. And just taking a real long look at myself and thinking, why, when things go a certain way, do I go back to a certain pattern of behaviour or a certain hobby or, and when I figured that out, it's trying to not go back there. It sounds like easier than it is, and it's not. It's very difficult actually. Your mind is telling you actually you should go back. Just do this, because it's safe.
When we met, you said something to me along the lines that if we didn't meet, you would never see my world, that there was such a huge world that you were not aware of outside of your world. Was that a part of that change?
So I was looking for something different. As you are aware, I actually told you that when we met, I was looking for something different. So that's not just a different type of person, but also a different set of experiences. And I wanted to push myself away from that default that I naturally would have gone back to. Do you have any default behaviours if you look at yourself?
Of course, yes. Yes, I'm human, so yes, the things that I find comforting and warm, like you say, especially when you're under stress or when you don't know what else to do or you have no one to talk to. Yes, there are default positions, but recognizing that, and it's very difficult to change overnight. You just have to be consistent with small changes, and I find appreciating the good things that you have, that's a big thing for me. I guess it comes with age. In my 20s, in my 30s, I always looked forward to what change was going to be like. But now in my early 50s, I understand that there is no major change. It's life is what you make out of it. So enjoying the good things that you have at that moment is very important, because now I know that sometimes without any control of yours or anything that you can do about it, life can be pretty bad. So I have said before in our podcast that I'm a natural born optimist, and I find that this helps me enjoy life.
Yeah, I mean, a default can be anything, really. It's it can be food. It can be familiar patterns of behaviour. It can be
Swimming.
I don't know, exercise. Yeah, it can be holiday places that you've like going back to. Some people go back to their families when at the end of
some people go back to smoking, some people go back to drinking, some people go back to running.
So some of those things are good, and some obviously not as good for you.
Absolutely. That's why I mention appreciating the good things, and recognizing that you're human and not being too hard on yourself, but just pulling yourself back and focusing on the good things when things are not ideal, because obviously we have control over a lot of things in our lives, but there are some things that we can't control.
I still go back, I think I've said this before, to something I read somewhere about, people who go to the gym every day, quite happy to physically work out, but you need to go to the mental gym every day and work on yourself. And it's not always a natural thing to do, and it's a lot harder as well. I mean, people think physical exercise is difficult, but mental work, that's very tough.
It's not just that, it's also having difficult discussions with your nearest and dearest, with your colleagues, because effectively default is, in my mind, and I think your poem Default describes it really well, when there is nothing wrong with the situation, but there is nothing brilliant about that situation. So it just works, it functions. However, you end up in a dead end where you're dissatisfied and you may not be able to identify why. So having those difficult discussions with yourself and with the people around you, it's not easy. It's not easy to say, I'm not really happy and I don't know why.
Sometimes going back to a default position is a temporary thing. It's like, you go back to somewhere.
A coping mechanism, yes.
A short term. I think the trick is not to get stuck in that default position. And that's also easier said than done as well.
Yes, that's why I mention it, because you have to recognize that you're human, and some days you just won't want to get out of bed and you will go back to that default position. But rather than giving up completely on trying to change yourself, you just recognize that was the bad day. And you start again from the next day. At least that's what I try to practice. Now that we know what default is about, would you like to tell us why you put it in the last segment, the valley of your book, From the Mountain to the Waterfall?
Because it's that part of the book is after the peak and the trough, and the valley is as you are just starting to go back up again. So you're trying to rebuild yourself. So you may have gone into your default setting and then you're just coming out of that again. And that may be in the same relationship, not necessarily a new relationship.
Absolutely. So you come to a stage when you need to challenge yourself again.
Yes.
How do you find that? Once that you have achieved something, how do you motivate yourself to challenge yourself again?
It's uncomfortable to challenge yourself. It's not easy to challenge yourself. To pull yourself away from something, maybe something that's been a default behaviour for 30, 40 years of your life. It's really not easy to do. And like I said earlier, you can slip back sometimes, unintentionally, totally unintentionally, you can slip back into that default mentality. But there's a difference between existing in life and living life And default settings, really, you're just existing. You're just trying to get through whatever it is you're trying to get through. It's not living. And so coming to the conclusion that you need to come out of that existence and just live again.
Where are you now? Do you exist? Do you live? Somewhere in between?
I think I'm living at the moment. That's how I feel anyway.
Would you like to read the poem again?
Default. Start again or return to the start. The comfort found in returning to the ground. That place so familiar, warm and so similar. To change again, to breathe new life, to forget life's past troubles and strife. Looking for unfamiliar warmth of a different sun, to make the bad come undone. And when the doubters doubt and try to bring about a different change in me, I think of me and them and what I want to be. There's no fault in your own default, but my own default is just no longer right for me.
You've been listening to Behind the Rhymes, the mountain we'll climb, with me, Maja.
And me, Andrew. You can find all poems from this series in my book, From the Mountains to the Waterfall of Love and Relationships, which is available to buy at Amazon and Waterstones, where you can also find my first book, After the Applause.
Thank you for joining us on this poetic journey. And if you want to come on our real mountain hikes, have a look at our website, hikingthebalkans.com, and drop us an email at welcome@hikingthebalkans.com.